What do I rely on now? My intuition. Folks, your intuition's there. It's there. You may not have used it before. You may not believe it, but it's there. Get out of your comfort zone and it will come up. You'll start figuring things out.
There's an idea out there that positive thinking will make it so. Put together that vision board, say some inspirational words to yourself, and voila, you will have the life you wish. But what if the reality is a bit different? What if getting what you want is part carrot and part stick? Terry Fossum's book, The Oxcart Technique, will revolutionize the way you approach achievement in every facet of your life. Based upon Nobel Award winning science, he shares how you really can get the life of your dreams. Terry, welcome to Bump in the Road. If you would, tell us your story.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Pat. First of all, I want to say I really appreciate what you're doing with this podcast because we all hit bumps in the road. We all do. And sometimes we don't recognize that. We think it's only us. No, it's everybody. And my story let's start with my dad. He was a poor sharecropper in South Dakota. And he got a job that took him to literally the poorest city in the entire United States of America, where I was raised. And it's called McAllen, Texas. You've heard of it in the news. If you've heard of where all the border crossings are happening, cartels are coming across, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's my home. And don't get me wrong, I love my hometown. I really do. But it could be a little rough growing up there sometimes with the gangs and the drugs. In fact, I was on the wrong end of an assault rifle in junior high in my own back alley. In high school, my dad, was killed. Before he died, one of the neighbors came up to him and said, I just want to make sure you understand something. Those 3 boys of yours, your 3 sons, not a single one of them will ever grow up to be anything. See, that's where I come from. People hear, the things you read about my bio being, in movies and TV and all these other things. I don't even know who that is. I just know I'm the kid who's never going to grow up to be anything. And Pat, I tried. I got all the positive motivation stuff I could plug into my head. I'm listening to the audios. I'm going to the seminars. I'm reading all the books, everything I could. And I tried because I got into business and I failed. And I tried and I failed. And I tried and I tried. And I tried with everything I've got until I couldn't try anymore. And I gave up. And I walked into my bathroom and I looked at myself in the mirror. So I guess he's right. You're never going to grow up to be anything. And wait a minute. No, I refuse to let that son of a gun be true. If for the memory of my dad, if nothing else, I refuse to let him be right. And Pat, something happened. Something clicked inside of me. I got ticked off, to tell you the truth. And I got back up and I brushed myself off and I got back at it again. Now, I still hit those same setbacks and those same failures and those same people telling me I was an idiot and the same no's and everything else as I did before. But now I had it from a different standpoint to go from. Not just some carrot, some positive visualization that I never believed would happen to a guy like me. I'm never going to go up to be anything. But now I had something to go away from, a stick, from the carrot and the stick standpoint. What I called my failure scenario, never grow up to be anything. I didn't let that tear me down anymore. I let that empower me. I let it tick me off and actually provide more pain than the pain of getting out of my comfort zone. And at that moment, what I ended up calling the Oxcart Technique was born. And that's my story and the story of the Oxcart Technique.
Tell us a little bit about the Oxcart Technique because it is brilliant.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I know you've read the book, and I appreciate that. Not, by the way, for everybody listening, not all podcast hosts go to that degree of research. So you're listening to a good one here, and Pat is somebody that you do want to follow. She does her homework. It's really impressive, to tell you the truth.
Thank you.
You bet, absolutely. So the Oxcart technique, again, came from failure. I don't want to try to sound too cool to begin with. But what happened to me is it started working. So people started coming to me and going, Terry, what are you doing? And so I taught them the technique. Before I knew it, I had rooms full of people wanting to listen to me, and learn the technique, and it started working for them. So we started applying it to marriage, because marriage is a goal, or at least it should be, that 50% of the people fail at. And I started getting these emails, you just saved my marriage. And then there was an international weight loss coach in one of my audiences, and she freaked out and started using the Oxcart technique for all of her clients. And then I decided to put it into a book. But before I did that, I wanted to make sure that I know it worked for me, it worked for a lot of other people, but it didn't make sense because it was counterintuitive to everything that we're hearing out there. Oh, only think happy thoughts. If you think happy thoughts, the world will go to work and make it happen for you. It's not true. And that's why 92% of the people who set a goal fail. And there's a lot of reasons it's not good enough. But I found out the biggest reason when I was doing my research. I came across something called prospect theory. Now, prospect theory was developed by Kahneman and Tversky in 1979. And what it taught us, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is that we will do more to avoid pain than to go toward pleasure. We'll do more to avoid pain than to go toward pleasure. So no matter how much positive visualization we do, and happy thoughts and dream boards and everything that I was doing, it's not enough to get us out of the pain of our comfort zone. When they applied this theory to economics, they won the Nobel Prize. So I was applying it to goal setting. I didn't even know that's what I was doing until I read about it and went, oh my gosh, that's what I'm doing. And bottom line is, we create a failure scenario along with our success scenario. So we've got both the carrot and the stick. That'll give us more pain than the pain of getting out of our comfort zone. So we don't stay there when the pleasure's not enough. It kicks us out of our comfort zone and into our conquer zone. And then when I turned this into a book, before I did, I've got to tell you this, I put on my social media, because what I was reading made sense to me, but I'm not in that field. So I put on my social media, I need somebody who has scientific experience with prospect theory. Got a lot of people reach out to me, one that I could understand, not because they didn't speak English. They didn't speak the same English that I speak. I don't understand that stuff. And he did his PhD dissertation on prospect theory. So I forwarded him all my notes. Look, here's what's happening. Here's what's going on. Here's what I think. Here's my book. But true scientific research is not trying to prove your theory. It's trying to disprove your theory. That's scientific research. So I told him exactly that. Prove me wrong. Tell me I'm wrong, because I'm not going to put it out in a book if it's not right. And he came back and said, Terry, you're dead on. So much so that he wrote the intro to my entire book. And then the experts chimed in, but we can talk about them in a second. Back to you, Pat.
Now, talk a little bit about the Oxcart theory, how it's structured, and how you actually start to define the actions needed to get to your goal.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. And let me say to everybody listening, we're going to give you a synopsis on this podcast, okay? A synopsis. To really do it right, please go on over to my website. I've got free stuff on there to help you out, to help you do this. And it's really important you do this right. It's really important for it to be effective. But we're going to give you a lot of great stuff you can put to use right now, starting right now. Okay. There's 3 pages to this. To the Oxcart technique. That's all it is. 3 pieces of paper. That's all it is. It's so simple and yet so effective. The middle page is what I call the bridge. It's the bridge between failure and success, between your failure scenario and your success scenario. It's your daily action plan. This is the daily actions that you're going to take that will make the difference between the two. Either one could be your future. the difference between which one will be your future is this piece of paper, what you've got written down, your daily actions. Now, odds are you already know what to do. You've probably been trained on what to do. If you're in sales, if you're in a production type business where you have to produce, you already know what you're supposed to do. Sticking to it is the hard part. We'll talk about that in a second. So write that stuff down. If you want to lose weight, you know what you're supposed to do. Write it down. If you're trying to make more sales, if you're trying to have a happy marriage, if you're trying to get off addiction, whatever it might be, these are the steps you will take every single day. Write them down on a piece of paper. Now, that's your action plan. Quite frankly, that's the easy part. Okay, everybody does that. It ain't enough. It's not going to do it. Because listen, emotion, not fact, is the driver of all action. Let me say that again.
So
Emotion, not fact, is the driver of all action. Fact ain't going to do it. You have to get those emotions going, both positive and negative. Don't get scared. Don't shy away from it. Again, just having happy thoughts isn't going to do it. You need to create emotion. A couple quick examples. We've all heard the stories of the lady whose son, the mom, whose son is trapped under a car. No way she's going to lift that car. She can't do it. It's impossible. Yeah, possible has no effect when your child's trapped under a car. If she just thought of happy thoughts, oh, I can't wait till his 16th birthday. It's going to be great. Tra-la-la. Ain't going to do it. On the other hand, if she doesn't get that car off her son, he going to die. Okay. Failure scenario. Both of them together make it work. Recently in the news, a dad, Pat and I, before that we started recording, we were talking about being in the outdoors. We both love the outdoors. There was a dad whose son was being attacked by a bear. No way he's going to fight off that bear. And yet he kills that bear with a piece of firewood. Why? Failure scenario. If he doesn't, the kid's going to die. Emotion, not fact, is the driver of all action. Forget the facts. If you've got enough emotion, the facts don't matter anymore. Neither do the excuses or the self-doubts or the fears that have kept you in that comfort zone in the past. You're getting ready to live a whole new life. Does that answer your question about that middle piece of paper, Pat?
Oh, it does. The comfort zone is one of my favorite topics. I find that people obviously like the comfort zone, and I think the majority of people never leave it. I saw that certainly in the cancer community. I thought a diagnosis of cancer would be a portal into a more meaningful life, at the very least. You'd be willing to change, you'd reassess things, you'd look at limited time, and you'd choose your heart's desire and pursue it. But nope, doesn't happen. I guesstimate about maybe 12 to at most 15% of the people actually change their lives as a result of something like that. And the vast majority of people want to go back to something that doesn't exist anymore, but it's in their comfort zone. And I think finding a way to kick us out of our comfort zone is the way to a great life. However, you can do that. And certainly creating these, if you want to call them negative motivators or fear or whatever, that's a fabulous way to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a huge difference. But besides the actual structure of the technique itself, a huge difference here between anything I've thought or seen, especially these days when people are being taught all you got to do is think about it and the world will make it happen for you. Well, that's a very comfortable thing. It makes you feel good. It makes you happy, but it's not going to get you to your goals. It's going to keep you in your comfort zone, which is exactly what you don't want. So that's where we get to starting with the failure scenario. And I love doing this as a seminar. I do this for companies, organizations, groups, where we don't just work on their business goals, their financial goals, because there's four, if you will, that are wrapped together. One, sure, is money. Your financial success is important because it affects your marriage, it affects your health, etc. So that's important. But so is your marriage or relationships. Because if those aren't good, well, guess what? Neither are your finances and neither is your health. If your health's not good, you don't have the rest of it as well. And for me personally, with my beliefs, I'll throw spiritual in there. Those things are all intertwined. So when I'm doing a seminar, often I will do at least two of those three. And often we've got half the audience crying. And that's a good thing. I've seen big, burly construction workers crying And that's fantastic because they're tapping into that emotion that's going to make the difference that they never did before. And especially when it comes to the happy marriage Oxcart technique. In my book, the Oxcart Technique, Blueprint for Success, I have my actual failure and success scenario and action plan in the book. Pat, you read it. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
When I did the audio book that should be coming out soon, I had to stop the tape several times. I really did, because I started doing that failure scenario. I have trouble even reading it. I have trouble even thinking about it. And that means that no matter what, I'm not going to screw up. I will do the things every day on my action plan to make sure that I am faithful, to make sure that I'm a gentleman, to make sure that I'm keeping my amazing wife happy so my success scenario can come true. And it's amazing how effective that is.
Well, and I think the thing you bring up that is so important is that you need to apply a technique like this multidimensionally across all different aspects of your life because they are all related.
Yeah. Yeah. Without question. That's why I really prefer not to just work on the financial aspect. I mean, we'll do it. We break. Getting out of your comfort zone is the biggest problem for any salesperson out there, anybody in any industry where you have to produce. Getting out of the comfort zone. We've all seen it. Well, I didn't have time to get to my calls today. Yeah, you did. You did the things that were comfortable first. I didn't have time. Yeah, you did. You did the things that were comfortable first because you don't want to get out of your comfort zone. That being said, again, if you don't have the rest of it going on, and I know that if I'm only working on that one dimension with people, they're not going to be as successful as if we work on the other dimensions as well. So for everybody listening in, make sure you are. Make sure you're working on at least 3 out of 4 of those. And a perfect example, I do coaching as well, limited coaching. And I was working with a couple on there, and they came on for business. That's what they wanted to use the Oxcart for, to propel them into high success, which it does. It became real obvious real soon, though, that was going to be secondary, because until we got the marriage part down first, the business was not going to happen. And of course, I've got this burly guy, real tough guy who I don't do that sort of thing, but part of it is working with me directly. So I just worked with him. And before long, he's in tears. And the transformation for their marriage, you got them communicating, because you work on your action plan together if you can, and got them communicating. And the transformation was nothing short of amazing. So in my opinion, another marriage saved. You've got to work on them all.
Can practicing this sort of technique, which takes you out of your comfort zone, make you more comfortable being outside your comfort zone?
What a great question, Pat. I've never been asked that one before. Absolutely, it does. Anytime you get out of your comfort zone, you expand the walls of that comfort zone. You become more comfortable in a different place. So it's kind of amazing how that works, how it stretches you just doing the actions to begin with. Whether you believe them or not is almost secondary, because like you said, you're doing them. And once you do it, well, now you're doing it. Now you know you can. It's kind of like when you're a toddler and you know the room around you. That's what you know. Outside that door over there, that's scary. I don't know that room. But as you gain more confidence and more courage, you start going towards that door. You start peering out into that room, peering through the door. Wow, there's more out there. Eventually you venture into there. It's a little scary at first, but then it becomes familiar. You've expanded it. Now what about that door? And pretty soon, well, there's no way in the world Mama's going to be able to keep up with you.
I would actually argue that once you get kind of that experience of moving out of your comfort zone on a consistent basis, it's where you want to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Pat and I talked about that ahead of time too. She's done some amazing things. If you haven't researched her, you want to research her some more. And it's true. You because you're not, I think this is why, because you're no longer comfortable being comfortable. You know what I mean? That's no longer where your comfort zone is. Your comfort zone is now getting out there, making things happen, living life, reaching those goals, doing the things that you thought about doing, but you were too scared to do. And then you felt bad because you know you want to do them, but you're too scared to do them. So now that becomes your new place where you really want to be. And I can tell you, and feel free to, look me up. I've done a couple of things. It's a great way to live. It's a great way to live, to be out there doing things, experiencing all that life has to offer. And you can do it. You just got to do it.
It's where creativity lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't live in your comfort zone.
No.
Or
No.
true innovation really lives outside your comfort zone.
Absolutely. Almost by definition, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I would urge people to go out and just do something simple, drive a different way, eat a different food, do something that's just takes the blinders off your eyes a little bit, because it is a big, wonderful world, and you deserve to explore it.
Absolutely. And that can certainly be, I mean, right there, I see an Oxcart technique forming. Your failure scenario is you live your rest of your life with these dreams, these hopes, these aspirations, these things you thought about, you dreamed about, but you never had the courage to do.
Mm.
And you're in your elder years and it's too late now. Or you're even further, you're on your deathbed thinking back to some of the things you wish you would have done. Hopefully it'll be a whole lot that you're happy you did. Really hope so. But maybe you had some things that, wow, I wish I would have done that. Maybe it's reaching out to somebody from your past, maybe a family member, maybe a close acquaintance that you had a fight with, but didn't take care of, didn't get back to. And then you're on your same place, but success scenario. What an amazing life. Okay, my time has come, but baby, I'm coming in screaming at full speed, and then from there, what's the action plans? What are those things that you've wanted to do? I think if you read and here's the way you do it, by the way, here's the way you do the 3 pages. And there's a quote at the bottom of the pages. It's important. You can see it on the website or in the book. But you read the failure scenario first. Now, the way it works, and it works, it will, if you've done it right, if you've done the emotion, then it will have your subconscious screaming there's no way in the world I'm going to let this happen. I will not let my failure scenario happen. It won't happen. And I'll do whatever it takes to make sure it doesn't. Perfect. You hear what happened? I'll do whatever it takes. What does it take? Then you read the next piece of paper, your bridge from failure to success, your daily action plan. Here's what it takes. Fine, I'll do it. I'll do it. Okay, fine. And then you read your success scenario. And it leaves you with this amazing feeling of, here's what that aspect of my life looks like because I took those actions. It's problem solution format. You create that problem in both your conscious and your subconscious that gets taken care of because of the actions that you're going to take today and that you did take today. You read it morning and night.
I think involving your subconscious is the key piece, and the emotional piece, obviously, because your intellect is wonderful, but it doesn't have the energy of emotion.
Yeah.
And that is what drives us. In my mind, there's no question about that.
No question. Emotion, not fact, is the driver of all action. I don't care how stoic you are or you think you are. You're going to take action based on emotion and emotion alone. It may be the emotion created by the facts, but it's because it spurs that emotion in you that drives you. So let's use that emotion. Let's not let it use us. Let's harness that emotion. Let's use that emotion to drive us out of our comfort zones once and for all, perhaps, and do those things we've been wanting to do, finally reach those goals.
When you're outside your comfort zone, where does intuition come into play?
I think all over the place, baby. I really do, because in a way you're just relying on that. You're in an area that is completely foreign, so it's that intuition that's going to drive you. Gosh, so many examples. We talked about one before we started filming, so I'll let everybody in. So I'm sitting here at my desk one day, and it's time for an adventure. And so I pull up my maps and look at the Arctic Circle. There's this town called I can't pronounce. I'm not sure. I don't know. And then there's this other town way up above that, not a town, something called Tuktoyaktuk. There's no road there. Huh, I think I'll go there. So I call up my wife, I do some quick plans. I call up my wife, my amazing wife, and I say, I think I'm going to go do a solo backpacking journey deep into the Arctic Circle. And she said,
What was
wait,
her
what?
reaction?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Solo backpacking deep into the Arctic Circle up on the permafrost. And so, when are you thinking about doing this? I said, well, Thursday. So condensed version is I get up there and I'm just some tourist. I meet an Inuit by the name of Kailek who befriends me. I talk him into dropping me off through the Mackenzie Delta on the permafrost. Now, I've done survival in different parts of the world, done adventure in different parts of the world. I have never been left alone on the permafrost. Well, not alone. There was billions of mosquitoes. But the sound of that engine, that boat engine driving away, there's one person in the world who knows where I am. And I've never been in this environment before. I have no idea if I could make it back, if it's possible to make it back to anywhere else. But here I am. What do I rely on now? My intuition. Folks, your intuition's there. It's there. You may not have used it before. You may not believe it, but it's there. Get out of your comfort zone and it will come up. You'll start figuring things out, just like when you were a toddler going into that other room. Your intuition kicks in. What you've done before, the things in your past, both good and bad, will kick in and help you. Yeah, get out there and use it.
No, I think that's so true. If you look back, it's when you did not trust your intuition that you got into trouble.
Yeah.
And
And
yet the intuition is very right-brained, and we cultivate our left brain in this society.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where the fears come in too, is we don't trust our intuition. So we start being afraid. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'll be able to handle it. I don't know. I don't know. Nah, forget the I don't know. You got this. Your intuition will kick in.
Jill Bolta Taylor was on. She did the TED Talk. Oh, no, I was gonna space out on the name. She was a Harvard brain researcher who had a stroke. My Stroke of Insight. That was the name
Mm,
of her first book and her TED Talk. And I'm going to terribly destroy her very sophisticated theory, but briefly, what she does is she divides the brain into four parts. Front left part is your rational brain. It's a part of you that just checks everything off the list and gets it done. Very efficient. The left rear part of your brain is the part that stores all your memories. It's past oriented. And the idea is it needs to keep you safe. Okay.
mm,
The rear right side of your brain is a 2-year-old who takes 7 flavors of ice cream out of the refrigerator, picks at each of them and leaves them on the counter to melt, and doesn't really worry about it. And then the right front part of your brain is this expansive, connecting part. It could be considered a spiritual part of your brain. And the key to our recent book, Whole Brain Living, is that you need to teach these different parts of your brain to communicate and cooperate with each other. And there are actual techniques to do it. And I find that really interesting because I think that past oriented, fearful part of our brain that lives in the left side of our head is often just instrumental in holding us back. I mean, it's the one that says, "Remember when you did this? Do you really
yeah.
wanna do that? Shouldn't you be doing something else?" I mean, it's like, Mr. Miss Negativity sitting there trying to undermine everything, but I think when you can start to understand how these different parts of the brain communicate, you can start using them for your benefit, and I think that plays very much into this carrot and stick approach to driving yourself towards what you wanna do.
Yeah, I think it absolutely does. And I think once again, it seems so simple. It's three pieces of paper, and yet it taps into so much different science. In fact, I was a little bit blown away when Dr. Tansley, the gentleman that did the foreword for my book, who did his dissertation on prospect theory, when he came out and said, Einstein said genius is taking the complicated and making it simple. I'm terribly paraphrasing too. And he said that's exactly what Fossum has done with his book. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. But I mean, I guess it's true. It started simple. In this case, it started simple but extremely effective, and then started realizing why it's so effective is because it's so backed by so much science. And even Forrest Mims III, named one of the 50 best brains in science in the world by Discover Magazine calls it the most significant advancement in the science of goal setting in recent history, which blew me away. Marshall Goldsmith, one of the top 10 business minds in the world, endorses it. T. Harv Eker, one of my heroes in the self-improvement world, endorses it. The founder of BNI, Dr. Messner, BNI, Business Networkers International, the largest networking organization in the world, endorses it. You know what? I was blown away. For a little guy, never going to grow up to be anything, and now to be able to help so many people, maybe like me, have a questionable background or have gone through things or hit their own bump in the road, to be able to push through and make things happen.
Now, there's a story in your book about why you named it the Oxcart Technique. And that story really drives home this whole technique. Would you talk about that?
Let's see if I can say it without reading it. But yeah, absolutely. And I love trying to make things understandable so folks like me can understand them. But there once was a farmer who lived on very fertile land, but he had no way to get his crops to the market just across the river. Well, why don't you build a bridge? The village elder asked him. Build a bridge? I'm a farmer. I don't know how to build a bridge. Ask the carpenter. He knows how to build many things. And sure enough, the farmer learned from the carpenter and he had his bridge. But he had no way to pull his cart full of vegetables across the bridge to the market. So he bought an ox from the village elder. Now, it was a good ox, a strong ox. But when he brought it home and attached it to his cart, the ox refused to pull it anywhere. This ox is no good, he said to the elder. What am I supposed to do when he doesn't want to pull the cart? Well, what motivates him? Motivate him. He's an ox. He should know what to do and do it. Do you always do what you're supposed to do, or do you need to be motivated sometimes too? Find out what the ox likes and reward him when he does right. Well, the farmer knew that the ox's favorite treat was carrots, sweet and juicy. So he dangled a carrot just in front of the ox's head. And when we moved forward to get it, he pulled the cart behind him. Yes, that worked great. As long as the ox was hungry. But when he wasn't, it didn't work at all. Angry again, the farmer approached the elder. What am I supposed to do when the carrot doesn't do the trick? Sit beside the road until he's hungry enough? That just won't do. What is it that the ox doesn't like? Well, he hates for anything to touch his tail. My son grabbed it the other day and nearly paid the price. Okay. At the time when the carrot doesn't do the trick, try tapping his tail with a stick. Well, that worked so well that most times just showing the ox the stick was enough to get him moving. Boy, that farmer was sure proud of the shrewd purchase he'd made. Sometimes the carrot worked. Sometimes the stick worked. But using them both, he always got his crops to the market. And that's the parable of the ox cart. And that's why the book is called the Oxcart Technique.